There has ever been a series that actually deserves this review, well, not because it's my review, but because it's a review of the series, then this one definitely does. And if you say otherwise, it's okay, I respect different opinions. However, no. Hello, beautiful bookworms! My name is Katarina, and I have something in my eye, and welcome to my channel! So today I'm going to be doing, as you've probably seen by the title of this video, a review on an entirety of a series which I just finished, and so because of that my thoughts are incoherent, but there's one thing that I know for sure: I absolutely loved this series, and I keep not saying its name like you haven't seen the fucking title of this video, but it's the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. I love this series, and it is probably one of my favorite, if not my current favorite, fantasy series. Maybe. Not sure. But as an adult series, possibly? I don't know, but it's just so good. So as you probably know, in terms of my favorite genres, if you've been on this channel for a little bit, and if you don't, welcome. I love fantasy, I love horror, I do read classics, but my favorite genres are fantasy and horror. And yeah, I've read a bit of fantasy. I could say a lot, but I've known people that have read more than me, and I'm still very young to these series that are the base of fantasy. However, for those series that I've actually read, YA adult series, I have just never loved consistently a series so much as I have loved the Witcher series. And so without further ado, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. This is not going to be very long. I don't want to spoil people because I really feel like you should go into the Witcher series the way that I did. Not because I did it that way, but because I felt like I got so much more of the series without actually knowing what I was expecting from it, and then just bam, getting slapped on my face and just, okay, this is a series, this is a thing, we're going to do it, cool, it's fine. So first of all, the Witcher series, it's a bit of a complicated thing in chronological order. Most of the people say that the actual novel series starts in the third book and then goes on until the seventh book. The fact of the matter is, there are two books in the beginning. They are called The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny. Those two books are an amount of short stories that serve as a presentation to your three main characters. There's three main characters in The Witcher. Please stop screaming. We already know you are working construction. Just stop. I'm gonna have to close the window. I never worked construction in my life, but I don't understand why they scream so much. I mean, the machines aren't even on. This is just to disturb my video. So as I was saying, those two books are an amount of short stories that basically just introduce you the three main characters of the Witcher series. Our main character, Geralt of Rivia, the Witcher, Yennefer of Vengeverd, if that's how you say it, because the words of this, my god. And she's a sorcerer, and Cirilla, or Ciri, and she is sort of a princess. And that's all that I'm going to say on the matter. So those are our three main characters, and the short stories, what they do is they give you the basis of this world, they give you the basis of the characters and why you should root for them and why are we following them, the relationships between them. They give you secondary characters that are going to be important in the novelization or the main novel process, and they just are setting. They set the world, they set the morality, they set the politicals, they set major events on and upon which the rest of the books will then digress and explain. They set up the novels. There's a lot of people that say you don't need to read the first two books to actually read the rest of the Witcher series. I wouldn't agree so much. I've read them first because of the Witcher show, the TV show that actually appeared in 2009, I believe, because I really wanted to see it, but I wanted to have read the beginning because I have heard that the beginning was going to be adapted. So I really feel like you should read those two short stories. And the fact of the matter is they are actually considered as book 1 and book 2 in the series. So I don't understand why someone wouldn't want to meet the characters and read the short stories just because they're short stories and adventures, because they do interface with events that actually happen in the rest of the novels. So they're important. They might not be a cohesive narrative, but they're very important. So I would advise you to read The Last Wish, then read The Sword of Destiny, and then actually begin the series. I do know that there's like an 8th or a 9th book, which I believe are short stories as well, and they are not really in chronological order. So you can read it after you read the main series. You can read it in between of some of the books, I believe. I personally haven't read them, so I don't want to advise you to actually do this when I don't know when you should read them, and I don't think you should be spoiled for plot points, because there are fucking plot twists in this book and series, and I wasn't expecting it, and it was so shocking. So shocking. So yeah, I don't know. I would consider the main series from book 1, The Last Wish, to book 7, The Lady of the Lake. And that's that. And then if you want to read the rest, I mean, you're welcome, because the characters in the world are so very much amazing that I would really advise you to actually read it. So because I don't have here the first 2 books, The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny, and because you can actually see the TV show adaptation that merges those 2 books, I am not going to talk about them a lot. I'm going to talk about the actual non-short story cohesive novel of The Witcher, and those are Book 3, Blood of Elves. Book 4, which I believe is called Time of Contempt, but I am not really sure about this. Let's trust it. Book 5, which is Baptism of Fire. Book 6, The Tower of the Swollen. And book 7, which for some reason in the Portuguese edition is divided into 2 books, and this second one, this is an attack to every single person that, first of all, is a fan of The Witcher, and second of all, is a fan of fantasy books that don't have hideous covers, because why is this a thing? I mean, compare this, which is not incredible, but I mean, we can get over it, with this. I mean, this, look at this. This will haunt your dreams until you're dead. It's ugly as shit, and there's octopuses in the background for some reason, which have nothing to do with the plot. Nothing. I swear to the Lord, there are no fucking octopuses in these books, so I don't understand. Actually, the Portuguese printer of this had a lot of backlash for that cover, so they were going to do a similar horrifying cover for the 8th short story books. And they were like, okay, so do you guys want us to change? And every single one of the fans were like, please, please, if you value the fact that we buy books from you, change that shit, because that's hideous. So yeah, that's what happened. So as you've probably seen, I have been reading the Portuguese version of The Witcher, which is not mine. It was lent to me by my boyfriend, who actually read this before me, which is something that normally doesn't happen, and I'm very, very proud. I'm also very, very angry because we have been talking plot points and he hasn't said shit. And I passed for a stupid young woman when I was discussing points with him, because I was like, I wish this happened, but this is never gonna happen. And he shut up. And now I just finished the books and I was like, shit, it did happen. Oh my god. It was incredible. I really, really enjoyed it. So the Portuguese novels of The Witcher are based on the actual original Polish version and are translated from the original Polish version. So the names of the character, for instance, Jaskier, who is a friend of Geralt the Witcher, he's not called Dandelion. And I'm not actually sure of why he would be called Dandelion in any realm of nature, but he's called Jaskier. And the horse is called Plaka and not Roach, which, again, who would call Roach? I mean, the translation is sort of the thing from what I understand, but the English translation of The Witcher is weird, and I'm really glad that I read this in Portuguese, translated from the original Polish, because at least we don't change names of things that don't need to be changed. That's just my point. So the actual series. Let's talk the actual series. I absolutely love this series. I have done reviews on Goodreads for pretty much all of them. You can find my links down below. That's not important, this is important. So I have done reviews for pretty much all of them, and you know how I feel about giving star ratings. I don't do it, but because I'm doing reviews on Goodreads and tracking what I'm reading this year, I have been giving star ratings, which are similar to what I felt about reading the book. I don't have a lot. I give star ratings based on my enjoyment, based on plot, and based on characters. So if the characters are good and compelling, if the plot makes sense and it's good, and if I enjoy the book, he's gonna have 5 stars. I mean, I am not that person that is like, I can't give 5 stars because there's this problem and this problem. Okay, it's nice to talk about the problems, but doing that, it's like being a professor and not giving your student an A, or in this case in Portugal, a 20, because 20 is too good. My students don't get 28. I mean, the best they could do is like 18. And that's not the scale. The scale goes from, in this case, 1 star to 5 stars. So if the 5 stars exist, they should be given. This is a rant that I could be doing in another video, I'm sorry. So I have consistently given pretty much all of these books 5 stars, except from the first part of the last book, the 7th book, the first part of Lady of the Lake, which I thought the book shouldn't be divided in 2. I always think that because, first of all, the books don't cost less just because you divide them in 2, so you're paying the double of the thing that you have paid for the book if they were together. And actually, it splits the story that was supposed to be cohesive and coherent into 2, which means that you're getting a break on a point that you shouldn't have a break. And it was exactly what happened in the first part of Lady of the Lake. So I read up until a point which I was like, okay, but all of the books up until now have been so incredible and so amazing. And this part lacked so much for me because nothing fucking happened. And then the ending of the Witcher series, the actual Lady of the Lake Part 2, my fucking god, if that was together, I would have given it 5 stars. Maybe 4.5, but it wasn't together, so I gave one 4 stars and another 5 stars, and they're the fucking same book. Does this make sense? No, absolutely not, but I mean, whatever. So, as I was saying, the actual plot of The Witcher is based on Geralt of Rivia. He's a witcher, which means that he's a mutant that actually is paid for villagers and other peoples to hunt for monsters, and he is not exactly as a witcher should be. He has a lot of morality questions, he has a lot of ethics questions, and he questions the part of being a witcher. He questions what he's doing, he questions fate, he questions every single thing. He questions political shit, but then he says like, nah, those things don't interest to me. I'm just a witcher and I'm doing my job. Bitch, you're not. You're always questioning, you're always ranting about something. You're a philosopher, you're not a witcher. I mean, that's what I got from him. So anyway, to just don't rant as much as I'm doing, through a series of events, he meets a sorcerer called Yennefer, and he is linked to a princess called Ciri. So these 3 characters are the main characters of The Witcher, and they are the ones that you are following. The Witcher is set on a world which has been ravaging by war because there's this country called Nilfgaard, and they are invading the northern country where The Witcher is set upon. So you have a lot of political themes on The Witcher books, which a lot of I was not actually used to, because in normal YA fantasy, there's not a lot of political themes, and in adult fantasy, sometimes there are, but they are replaced with magical systems and plot points and world building, and not as much as political. But in this case, because The Witcher is sort of a world that's very similar to our world in Middle Age times, Sakowski doesn't spend a lot of time actually explaining you what the world is. He has beautiful descriptions, but it doesn't take too long describing the world. It's a world ravaged by war. Something is going on. There is magic, but it's not actually very cleared how magic works. It has 1 or 2 explanations of how the thing works, but it's not like you're not there every single minute trying to understand how magic systems work. So what you're doing is following character journey and character development, which is amazing. It has a lot of secondary characters, which you would think I wouldn't want to know about all of the things in the life of these characters. You would. You will love all of the secondary characters. You will love the entirety of the plot. The plot is very raw, it's very harsh, and I feel like in here I found a difference between American writers and American fantasy and European writers, because Sakowski is a Polish writer, and you can tell that he is not afraid, and he actually doesn't give a fuck to actually curse in his books, because it's very normal to actually, I mean, you see that I'm cursing all the time, and that's not a good example to set, but I mean. is actually not afraid to explore the meanders of morality in his characters. He doesn't want his characters to be seen as good characters all the time. And there's a lot of times that you think, why on earth would you do that? There is not someone completely good in this series. And there's not someone completely bad either. You could say there are villains. Of course there are. There's war. There are different factions. And there are different interests at play. But no one is terribly, completely evil. There's that little thing which you're like, maybe I could empathize with you? Maybe, or maybe not. But I love to hate you, that sort of thing. There are very different and compelling characters. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of description of hurt and pain and the realities of war and the realities of living. Living is dangerous. We cannot just assume it's not just because we live in a sheltered life, most of us. The way that The Witcher is written, I know that a lot of people have a bit of trouble with that because The Witcher is not a cohesive narrative. It has a lot of jumps between time and between places, and sometimes some of the characters are in a place and they are hearing about something that happened to other characters, and then you switch POVs and you're actually seeing what actually happened to that character you were hearing about. So you go a lot of back and forth, and you have a lot of situations in which stuff is not clear to you, which I think is amazing, because the thing about Sapkowski is that he does not bother to explain you the plot. He wants you to get there on your own, and if you don't get there, you will get there eventually, because things will be revealed and you will know what is going on. And the cool thing about this series, it's an Ouroboros. What it does is it bites its own tail. It starts in a point and then it reaches. Everything has such a delightful and sensible ending, which I think that a lot of people don't enjoy the ending of The Witcher, as a lot of people don't enjoy this skips in narration and you never knowing at what precise time things are happening. Like, is this thing happening at the same time that this thing is happening? You don't know, and that's life. I mean, of course now we have the news, but at that time, middle-aged sort of times, you would never know what happened to anyone except for legends and hearsay, and you wouldn't know if it was happening at the same time or not. Of course, there's a lot of themes like fate, destiny, things that were already predetermined, and if you believe in that or not. There's also a lot of themes of how legends are constructed, how they are built, and how they are transmitted in mouth to mouth and through writing and through different perspectives. And I think that what Sapkowski wanted to do is actually transform this as if it was a legend, as if it was one legend in our world, something that happened so long ago that we didn't remember the details all correctly. So what he was giving us was a legend. He was giving us a myth, a story about these characters that we learn to love so much and to enjoy so much, even though we don't always agree with what they're doing. He wanted to give us a myth, and he did it. It was amazing. The way that he constructed all of this intertwined narratives, and when he was done, everything made sense. He did not forget any single part of any single thing in his narrative. Not one. And he had many characters. He had political characters, he had our characters, our secondary characters, primary, others that were just in the back doing some shit. He never forgot them, and he switched POVs with such an amazing focus on what he wanted to show. If he wanted to show the horrors of war, he could show medical tents in which people were being operated. If he wanted to show what soldiers went through, he could show a perspective of a soldier, even if it had nothing to do with your main characters. If he wanted to show the perspective of your main characters, he could show other people talking about your main characters, and then your main characters having an actual gigantic perspective of what was going on. There's a lot of races in this, and of course racism is a topic in here. We have elves, we have dwarves, we have gnomes, and we have the Witcher killing everyone that is not human, and not agreeing so much with that, but people pay them because what is different is scary and they want them to go away. You have the countries of the south, you have the countries of the north, all of them are different, and so all of them have a lot of prejudice against each other, and it's beautiful how he explores all of this, and he has these just very spicy commentaries on how we are so stupid and dumb to actually be afraid of what is different from us and just want those people killed for no absolute reason when we could work together. But one thing that I actually really loved about Sapkowski's writing is that even though it is dark, even though it shows you the worst that humanity can do, even though it shows you those big, black, deep, dark holes in people, it shows you that things eventually change, times change, stuff ends, and other new things begin. And that is the most important message that I got from the Witcher series. It's a message of possible hope. It's a message of criticizing the way society does things, but saying that something good can come out from the ashes of our stupidity. It says that we have to do sacrifices, and not everyone is going to reach a good, peaceful place. But we did it for a reason. There's a reason why we do stuff. There's a reason why we make relationships. There's a reason why we trust. There's a reason why we as people come together and try to build a society. Because we are trying to do something better. We are trying to correct mistakes from the past. Obviously, people will continue being people and make mistakes and being violent and being horrible. But there's a peace of mind in knowing that we can do something about it, even if we think we're not doing something about it. And even though he criticizes progress a lot, because there's a lot of lines that say that progress will come out of the battles and the war and will come out of all of the situations that human race is up against, he criticizes that a lot. He says that in the name of progress, terrible things are done and seen, but progress will make things better for some people. Maybe not for all of them, but stuff will change. Times end and times begin. And this is what makes the Witcher series amazing. And I haven't said anything about the plot because I can't, but it's incredible. It's an incredible series, and I would advise you so much to go and pick this up. This series is not for everyone. People have a lot of problem with the narration style, that he changes styles. He changes styles through letters, through songs, through POVs, through everything. Descriptions, environment, everything. But the fact of the matter is, it's an intelligent written book series. And at the end of the day, don't we want to be considered intelligent? Don't we want to have our own conclusions? Don't we want to debate our moralities, our ethics, and what we think is right and wrong? And if we like a book or we didn't like a book, don't we want to talk about it? I mean, don't we want to have a smart series that pulls at your heartstrings and makes you worry, that gives you a fucking plot twist in the last book that you're like, bitch, how was I supposed to understand this plot twist? How? Because I swear to God, when the plot twist hit, I put the book down. And I was like, fuck you, I cannot read this anymore. And then the next day, I picked it up again and I was like, okay, now let's go. Because it was just so strange. There's a lot of trigger warnings for this, obviously, because it's a very raw and very descriptive in terms of bad things that happen. There's a lot of plot twists for people getting hurt in the war. There's a lot of plot twists for attempted sexual abuse, slavery, racism, xenophobia. There's a lot of trigger warnings. I cannot list you all of them. Mutilation, self-mutilation as well, suicide, ideation, and others, forced pregnancies and other stuff, but I cannot list you all of them. But if you want to talk to me in the comments, or if you need to know specific plot points, I can try and tell you that, because it's a very triggering book. There was some parts that I was reading and I was like, why can't you just finish this topic, because this topic is gross and I don't want to. So I understand about that. So I think that's all I have to say. Wow, this is a long video. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you've read the Witcher series, if you have the same opinions or different opinions of me, just tell me something in the comments down below. I am very excited for the rest of the TV show. I do hope that they make this series proud and that they can make it something that people will watch and associate with the books and enjoy it very, very much, because I myself, I really, really love the book series, and now I will rewatch the first season of the series and watch the rest that will surely come out eventually with new eyes and with new perspectives. So I am hoping way more of the series and expecting way more than I was in the beginning. So giving a vote of trust here, because it cannot be blown. But that's going to be it, guys. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And that's going to be it. Yeah, I've said that's going to be it 1,000 times. So yeah, have a good day and happy readings to you all. Bye.